And that is going to lead to our album review of the week. This week, we're talking about Tsunami Sea by Spiritbox. This is another group that I'm a big fan of, and a group that exploded in popularity after their first album, Eternal Blue, which had a ton of great hits such as Holy Roller and Circle With Me. The band was formed in 2017 out of Victoria, British Columbia. They are fronted by vocalist Courtney LaPlante, guitarist Mike Stringer, drummer Zev Rosenberg, and bassist Josh Gilbert. They released their music through a partnership with BMG Rights Management and Rise Records, along with an independent vanity label, Pale Chord. Courtney has a much lower voice and is known more for her guttural false chord screams, but she can also belt out some really clean melodies and choruses as well. This album was released back on March 7th, 2025. As I mentioned before, I'm trying to recap albums that are new, but also some that are within the last 18 months from bands. This falls right in that category. It's the band's second studio album after Eternal Blue in 2021. They've had a couple of EPs come out as well, such as Rotoscope in 2022 and The Fear of Fear in 2023. Courtney has also been featured on numerous tracks, most notably End of You with Poppy and Amy Lee, which is fantastic, In Another Life by Crown the Empire, Contraband by Make Them Suffer, and 1000 Painful Stings by The Acacia Strain. Spiritbox has 1.66 million monthly listeners on YouTube Music, about 3.4 million on Spotify. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into this thing here. It's an 11-track album. Track number one, Fata Morgana. The first thing I notice is the super heavy guitar distortion and the overall cinematic buildup makes the vibe very tense. The actual meaning of Fata Morgana is essentially a mirage of a certain object and specifically on the horizon, which goes along with the album title, Tsunami Sea. In here, it's kind of that way, but more so, I think, for a person. We've talked about these themes in other reviews before, but essentially someone putting on a mask to project a level of composure to the outside world, when in reality they're dealing with grief or depression while pretending to be okay. One part of the song mentions pain is just an infinite energy upon my conscience. I really love the tone that this sets going forward. You get the aggressive screams and growls, but also some melodies here with the chorus. So a really solid opening track on this album. After that, we go to Black Rainbow, which is another very intense, quick build up here too. It sets the tone, but with the guitars and later with the drums. The one thing I'll say is there are times where the distortion's almost been too heavy a little bit, where it kind of hides Courtney's vocals a little much, which annoys me a bit at times. But there's also times I don't mind it, especially if it all leads up to a heavier part with her screams. But I think that it also can be overdone. The meaning was harder for me with this, but then I thought about the one part that we keep hearing repeated, which is dissolve, displace, rejoice, repeat. No pressure here, admit defeat. Now, hear me out here. So, keeping with themes of the ocean, this could be an allegory to depressurization or the bends. Nitrogen dissolves in your blood. It can lead to death, displace, rejoice. This one's kind of interesting because I've actually watched some real life horror, disturbing things around the internet videos. Shout out to Nexpo, of a deep sea diver not making it back, and there was almost this weird sense of peace from the movement and breathing towards the end. So almost a kind of a bizarre sense of euphoria in a way. And then the repeat part of this could almost go back to the theme of Fata Morgana and depression, as in being stuck in a depressive cycle. I think that that's almost certainly right after she says admit defeat. It's a really creative way here to tackle some super dark themes. So yeah, I really enjoyed Black Rainbow. After that, we go on to Perfect Soul. This song's actually the other side of what I really like about Spiritbox. A lot of the time I listen to them and think about their work, it's the heavier side. But songs like this show they are more than capable of elevating their music, even with cleaner vocal work. Definitely more dramatic here. I'm getting that it could just be about the end of a relationship, so it can give a person a chance of becoming something anew. One part of the song states, "So cover up the well and leave a gift to summon the spring." After that, we proceed to Keep Sweet. There's some more poppyish, kind of popish elements in here. We have a seamless, effortless shift from those melodic verses to more heavier vocals. One part of the song states, "I always knew there was a reason my innocence was a keepsake worn around my neck." It's interesting how different artists who grew up religious and how they can see firsthand how it has harmed them or people that they know. And that's not to bash on it for the record. I'm not even sure if that's actually fully what she's talking about here, as Keep Sweet has been used in fundamentalist Mormon churches. So I think that it might even relate potentially more to that instead of religion as a whole. But I'm not sure what else I'm supposed to get other than it being something about religion here, or also in general, it could just be about keeping someone silent or submissive. Now, that could be used as a theme of keeping women down in general against the entire populace. But then later, we do get a part of the song that says, "And everything that happened to me was a talisman I threw like a stone." Again, that's something that can relate to religious imagery, imagery. So, could be religious, could be against society as a whole, kind of could be maybe a little bit of both there. And then after that, we go to a completely kick ass song in Soft Spine. This is the one song that I had heard a little while back, actually, before listening to the whole album. This was even performed on Jimmy Kimmel Live and then at the Grammys as the song was nominated for Best Metal Performance. Also, huge shout out to Jimmy for being the one late night talk show host that has pretty consistently hosted metal acts on his show, such as Poppy and Knocked Loose, along with Ghost, Slipknot, Metallica, and others. This song is a 20 out of 10. It's my favorite Spiritbox song I've heard to date, and here's why. Firstly, as I've heard her state when this song has been played live, it's essentially an anthem against everyone she fucking hates. Secondly, we somehow have super heavy guitar distortion, yet it works in a way where we get one of the sickest grooves imaginable, where I'm not just headbanging, my entire body wants to bump around to the music. What I said about Perfect Soul encapsulating one side of their work, this perfectly defines the other. Heavy, aggressive, and I don't give a fuck apologetic. It's just fiery, fierceful energy all the way through. And finally, at least a portion of who this is about, in my opinion, as a quick aside, I'm going to get some hate right now, and that's fine. While I can't deny that there are songs of Falling in Reverse that I like, I'm not the biggest fan of Ronnie. He's done some good things for sure, but he's also done some really stupid, awful things and said some really stupid things. I've mentioned before how I saw Ice Nine Kills on the Popular Monster tour, and Spiritbox was supposed to be there. Why weren't they? Well, due to backlash from Spiritbox fans after comments that Ronnie made back in 2023, they backed out of the tour, which I'm sure did not make the band happy. In this song, she mentions, quote, "insidious by nature, rewarding sick behavior," essentially artists getting fame or rewards off of controversy. Watch the World Burn by Falling in Reverse, which I can't deny Ronnie kicks ass at, and it's super impressive, essentially paints himself as a king or a godlike figure in the metal or music world. When Courtney says in Soft Spine, quote, "I am a witness to your regicide," it draws a perfect parallel as a king who is losing his support or peers. Now, obviously, Ronnie and Falling in Reverse are still super popular, and I'm sure the song isn't entirely about him. But am I saying you could convince me there's at least one shot being fired in his direction? Absolutely. Regardless, really good song. Love Soft Spine. After that, we continue with Tsunami Sea, and this is just really like my favorite part of the album, this middle part right here. We start by getting sounds of some waves before a heavy bass and drum rhythm that leads to everything crashing back down and starting with beautiful, clean vocals by Courtney. I love how calm everything gets when she says, "I could lay here for hours." The instrumental part of this song is almost like massive waves, and then this goes right along with the lyric as it's peaceful and a welcome break between those other segments. I'm getting that it could just be about always, looking for perfection, but never finding it and how it can affect you emotionally. These two songs with Soft Spine and Tsunami Sea are great back to back. And then from there, speaking of back to back, I mean, A Haven with Two Faces, the crashing, or the waves crashing perfectly fades, right into this song from Tsunami Sea. It's as if it's not two songs, it's the same song just going into a different theme. Really seamless transition here. This album, what I've appreciated the most with Courtney is when she's singing something more melodically, it's either calming or peaceful, or at times maybe sad. Where when it's more aggressive, it's pure anger, like in Soft Spine. I think it's the same here. Haven is a home, and so it could be about hers, which is Victoria up in British Columbia. The song states, "Under the mountain, floating on the sea." The last part I get because Victoria is on Vancouver Island. It's a beautiful area, and that's the point here is, yes, it's beautiful. I'm sure she's had a lot of good memories there, but also time can destroy it, and that can be done by man or by nature. Again, we've talked about water throughout the album and how it's been a double entendre with emotion. We have that again here with land. She wants her home, in this case for emotions, her mind, to be a place to hide and just have eternal peace. But that's almost impossible in life, as you have to deal with being two different people emotionally at times. I think we can go back to Tsunami Sea as that happening there too, with her being at a happy place. But here it goes from peaceful to chaos, so almost the opposite, kind of shaky to calm and then calm to shaky. Also, the album cover shows both of these songs together, kind of in a way, as it's two faces with a line or a wave drawn kind of going through them. I especially appreciate on this song how smooth the transition of the clean to scream was on I Watch as it flows backwards to me. Even if you don't appreciate this album, musically with, everything going on, you have to appreciate the pure creativity of how they've kind of constructed these songs together. So, yeah, all three of these songs in the middle of the album, really well done. A Haven with Two Faces, another great song. We go though from something that I really appreciated and was great to something that I wasn't quite as big of a fan of, which was No Loss, No Love. I'm just not a fan of the electronic parts of this song with the spoken word. Firstly, and I think that this is clear if you've listened to my reviews before, I don't mind electronic elements or implementation of those in metal. You can go back and listen to my Future Palace review if you want more of my thoughts on that. But not at the part it's more featured here. I also am totally fine with spoken word and music. The first person that comes to mind with that is Jim Morrison of The Doors, and it made you really focus on what was being said. And there wasn't a lot of distraction behind what he said back, when he was doing it. Here, there's plenty of that distraction, and I hate that. Now, what I do love about this, though, is how quickly we get to the heavy part of the song, as A Haven with Two Faces ended with the waves and more calm, and here it immediately grabs your attention and tells you to wake up if you were relaxing too much with the music. For themes here, just pure self-destruction. The part of the song that mentions an island of solace beneath a corpse's feet. I can feel something sinister under the surface. The darker thing underneath kind of finally consuming the person we've been hearing about throughout this album in a way. After that, we go on to Crystal Roses, and yeah, again, I'm not a fan of this one here either. The whole song kind of gives off this buildup of anticipation of how are we paying it off, and then never does. The build-off to me is almost more distracting than it is anticipating. Just not one of my faves. It's a great album, but these last two songs have kind of been misses for me a little bit. After that, we go to track 10, which is Ride the Wave. The first 3 minutes of the song is almost theatrical, as if Courtney's voice is kind of ominous in a way. It's got a great rhythm to it, but also feels very sad. Then we get harsh screams back after Till I Break. Earlier in this review, I mentioned that in Black Rainbow, how the heavy distortion made her clean vocals kind of hidden in a way. Here, ironically, it actually slightly makes her screams more hidden, and it comes across just a little too messy for me. Part of the song mentions, Ride the Wave like a message in the bottle. I think, it could just be trying to tuck certain uncomfortable emotions away. Also kind of get more themes of self-hatred here in this, almost, and not allowing positivity because of just being stuck in a depressive cycle. A decent song, but like I mentioned, just the distortion's a little too much. From there, we finish with Deep End. It's pretty interesting because we get some harsher elements and beautiful elements both at the same time here. Part of the song mentions, you're an island with a clear view. I'm a tidal wave. Pull me back to you. Essentially bliss and paradise, but still being stuck or pulled under by darkness in the hope of kind of getting back to shore and getting back to that paradise. Essentially peace versus chaos in a way mentally for someone. I think it's a very dramatic way to close out the album, and I honestly appreciated that last track. My final thoughts on this whole album, the first 2/3 of it I really loved, and then it fell off a little bit for me. I did appreciate Deep End as the closing track, but the heroes for this album are right in the middle for me. Everything from Soft Spine to Tsunami Sea to A Haven with Two Faces. There were certain elements that I didn't like here in this album, but there were also others that worked really well, and the creativity was a 10 out of 10. So I think in general, when it comes to creativity, music, everything, and I have to weigh it all together, it's a 7.5 8.5 out of 10 for me. I think I liked Eternal Blue, their first album, slightly more, but this is still a really solid piece of work. But yeah, if you want to hear Spiritbox and you want to hear their newer stuff, listen to Soft Spine, listen to Tsunami Sea, and A Haven with Two Faces. You won't be disappointed. All of those songs are really solid. Hey everyone, I'm Aaron Jackson, the host of Valkyrie Sessions. If you enjoyed this review, I'd love to invite you to check out the full podcast. Each week, we dive into everything happening in woman-focused rock and metal, from album reviews and band of the week to festival news, artist interviews, and the long-term vision behind Valkyrie Fest. You can watch full episodes every Friday right here on YouTube or listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'd love to have you join us. Until next time, keep it rockin', and I'll see you on Valkyrie Sessions.